Egypt is often called the gift of the Nile, and for good reason. For thousands of years, the Nile River has been the lifeblood of this land. Stretching over 6,000 kilometers from Central Africa to the Mediterranean, it is the longest river in the world, and it shaped every aspect of Egyptian life, from agriculture to culture, religion, and politics. Every year, the Nile flooded its banks, leaving behind nutrient-rich silt. This natural fertilizer turned the arid desert into fertile land, enabling crops to thrive. Ancient Egyptians relied on this predictable cycle, planning their planting and harvest around the river's rhythms. To them, the Nile was more than water. It was divine, a source of life bestowed by the gods. Geography played a key role in Egypt's development. Deserts stretched to the east and west, the Mediterranean Sea lay to the north, and cataracts blocked the Nile in the south. These natural barriers offered protection from foreign invasions and allowed Egypt's civilization to flourish with relative stability. The land was divided into Upper Egypt in the south and Lower Egypt in the north, a naming convention that follows the flow of the Nile. These regions each had their own culture, symbols, and rulers, which eventually merged to create a unified kingdom. The balance between river, desert, and people laid the foundation for one of history's most enduring civilizations. Before the pyramids rose into the sky, small communities clustered along the Nile, cultivating crops and domesticating animals. Around 5000 BCE, Egyptians began establishing permanent settlements, learning to harness the river for agriculture. Wheat, barley, and flax thrived on the fertile floodplains, while cattle, goats, and sheep provided meat, milk, and leather. As villages grew, trade networks formed, pottery styles diversified, and early forms of religious and cultural expression emerged. Leaders began to manage food storage, irrigation systems, and communal protection, laying the groundwork for governance. By around 3100 BCE, a monumental moment occurred: the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt. According to tradition, a king named Nar-Meror Menes, as some records suggest, brought these two regions together under a single crown. This unification marked the beginning of the Pharaonic era, when centralized authority, religion, and culture began to intertwine in ways that would shape Egypt for millennia. Pharaohs were more than rulers. They were living gods. They embodied both political authority and divine responsibility. Their role extended beyond governance. They were intermediaries between humans and the gods, tasked with maintaining Ma'at, the concept of cosmic order, truth, and justice. Power passed from generation to generation within dynasties, and monumental architecture became a symbol of a pharaoh's strength, from the step pyramid of Djoser to the grand temples of Luxor. These structures reflected not only wealth and organization, but also the deep religious significance of leadership. Pharaohs commanded armies, oversaw trade, and maintained diplomatic relations with neighboring civilizations. They also directed large-scale projects, including irrigation, agriculture, and tomb construction. These responsibilities cemented their authority, ensuring that their legacy endured long after death. Religion permeated every aspect of Egyptian life. Egyptians worshipped a vast pantheon of gods and goddesses, each connected to natural forces or human experiences. Ra, the sun god, symbolized life and creation. Osiris, god of the afterlife, governed resurrection and justice. Isis, his consort, embodied motherhood and magic, while Anubis, the jackal-headed deity, guided souls through the afterlife. Religious rituals were not merely symbolic. They influenced agriculture, politics, and personal conduct. Temples served as centers of worship, education, and economic activity. Priests maintained these temples, conducted ceremonies, and ensured that offerings reached the gods. Egyptians believed strongly in the afterlife. Elaborate burial practices, including mummification, were intended to preserve the body and spirit for eternity. Tombs, coffins, and funerary goods were carefully prepared to provide comfort and sustenance in the next world, reflecting the culture's deep concern with life beyond death. Around 3100 BCE, Egyptians developed hieroglyphics, a sophisticated writing system that combined pictorial symbols with phonetic elements. Initially used for religious texts and inscriptions on monuments, writing soon became vital for administration, trade, and education. Scribes were highly respected as they could read and write, skills that most people did not possess. They recorded tax collections, legal documents, and historical events, ensuring that the workings of government and society were preserved for future generations. Egyptians also excelled in mathematics, medicine, and astronomy. They developed a calendar based on the lunar and solar cycles, allowing them to predict Nile floods and plan agricultural activities. Architectural feats, including the construction of massive pyramids and temples, demonstrate their advanced knowledge of engineering and geometry. The pyramids are Egypt's most iconic symbols, representing both religious devotion and technological prowess. The Step Pyramid of Djoser, built around 2650 BCE, marked a turning point in stone construction, while the Great Pyramid of Giza, completed circa 2560 BCE, remains one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Construction required careful planning, labor organization, and knowledge of mathematics. Workers were skilled craftsmen, not slaves, who lived in nearby settlements and received food, housing, and medical care. Temples, obelisks, and statues also played crucial roles in religion and politics. These monuments were designed to honor gods, commemorate pharaohs, and assert authority. The sheer scale of Egyptian architecture reflects a society that valued permanence, order, and the divine connection between rulers and gods. Life along the Nile was shaped by the river's cycles. Most Egyptians were farmers, cultivating wheat, barley, and flax. Seasonal floods dictated the planting and harvest, and communities organized around irrigation systems and shared labor. Homes were typically made of mud brick, with flat roofs used for sleeping or drying crops. Families were central to daily life, and social hierarchy influenced work, education, and opportunity. Men and women had distinct roles but could participate in trade, religious ceremonies, and even legal matters. Food included bread, beer, vegetables, and occasionally fish or meat. Clothing was simple, often linen, but jewelry and makeup were used for protection and display. Festivals and music provided entertainment and religious expression, reinforcing communal bonds. Egypt's economy relied on agriculture, but trade expanded wealth and influence. Egyptians traded grain, papyrus, linen, and crafted goods for gold, cedar, incense, and exotic animals from Nubia, the Levant, and Punt. Markets were lively centers of exchange, and merchants traveled along the Nile and across deserts. Trade networks helped spread ideas, technology, and culture. For example, Egyptian art, architecture, and religious concepts influenced neighboring civilizations, creating a lasting regional impact. The pharaoh controlled major resources, taxed trade, and directed state projects, but local communities maintained autonomy in daily commerce. This balance between central authority and local activity allowed Egypt to remain prosperous for centuries. After the Old Kingdom's collapse, Egypt entered a period of political fragmentation. Around 2050 BCE, the Middle Kingdom emerged under the leadership of Mentuhotep II, reuniting Upper and Lower Egypt. Stability returned, and the pharaohs focused on social reforms, infrastructure, and expanding agricultural land. Art and literature flourished during this period. Poetry, wisdom texts, and religious literature were produced for both elite and common citizens. Temples were rebuilt, and fortresses were constructed in strategic areas, reflecting the need for defense and central authority. Trade expanded further during the Middle Kingdom. Egypt imported luxury goods from Nubia, the Levant, and beyond, strengthening its influence and economy. This era demonstrated that even after political turmoil, Egyptian civilization could reinvent itself and maintain its cultural richness. Around 1550 BCE, the New Kingdom began, marking Egypt's golden age. Pharaohs like Hatshepsut, Thutmose III, and Amenhotep III expanded the empire's borders through military campaigns and diplomacy. Egypt became a dominant power in the ancient world, interacting with kingdoms in Syria, Nubia, and the eastern Mediterranean. Monumental architecture reached new heights. The temples of Karnak and Luxor, the tombs in the Valley of the Kings, and the Abu Simbel temples reflect both religious devotion and political power. Pharaohs commissioned these projects to glorify themselves and the gods. Society thrived culturally and economically. Art, music, and literature flourished, and trade networks brought wealth, ideas, and exotic goods into Egypt. The New Kingdom represents the apex of ancient Egyptian civilization. Two pharaohs stand out in popular imagination: Tutankhamun and Ramses II. Tutankhamun, who ruled briefly around 1332 BCE, is famous for his nearly intact tomb discovered in 1922. While his reign was short and politically minor, the treasures found in his tomb provide invaluable insights into Egyptian art, burial customs, and religious beliefs. Ramses II, also called Ramses the Great, ruled for over 60 years. He was a military leader, diplomat, and builder, leaving behind countless monuments and temples. The Ramesseum, Abu Simbel, and the temples at Karnak testified to his ambition and skill in both leadership and architecture. His reign symbolizes the enduring power and influence of Egypt's pharaohs. Egyptian art was highly symbolic, adhering to strict conventions that emphasized order, proportion, and clarity. Wall paintings, sculptures, jewelry, and pottery conveyed religious, political, and social messages. Art often depicted gods, pharaohs, and daily life, serving both decorative and communicative purposes. Music, dance, and festivals played integral roles in culture, strengthening community bonds and celebrating religious and seasonal events. Literature, including poetry, wisdom texts, and historical inscriptions, preserved knowledge and guided generations. Ancient Egyptians were pioneers in practical science. Medical papyri document treatments for wounds, fractures, infections, and even dental issues. Physicians specialized in various areas from general medicine to surgery, and used herbs, minerals, and bandaging techniques effectively. Astronomy and mathematics were equally advanced. The Egyptians observed the stars to develop calendars, predict Nile floods, and align monumental architecture with celestial events. Geometry allowed for precise construction of pyramids, temples, and irrigation systems, reflecting their deep understanding of mathematics applied to real-world problems. Despite its strength, Egypt eventually faced internal and external challenges: political instability, economic difficulties, and invasions by foreign powers, including the Hyksos, Libyans, Nubians, Persians, and eventually Romans, gradually weakened Egyptian sovereignty. Each foreign rule brought new customs, administration styles, and artistic influences. While Egyptian culture adapted and endured in some areas, the independent civilization of the pharaohs slowly diminished. By the time of the Ptolemies and later the Roman conquest, Egypt's identity had merged with Mediterranean and Near Eastern cultures. Yet the legacy of the Nile civilization remained influential. Today, Egypt's ancient civilization continues to captivate the world. Monuments, tombs, and artifacts reveal a society remarkable for its ingenuity, organization, and creativity. Hieroglyphs, pyramids, temples, and religious texts provide insight into the values, beliefs, and daily lives of the Egyptians. Modern Egypt owes much to this heritage. Tourism, education, and archaeology continue to study and celebrate ancient achievements. Beyond material remnants, Egypt's ideas about governance, architecture, religion, and art resonate in contemporary culture, inspiring curiosity and admiration worldwide. The story of Egypt is not just about the past, it is a testament to human ingenuity, adaptation, and the enduring connection between people and the land they inhabit. From the Nile's fertile banks to the desert horizons, Egypt remains a civilization whose echoes can still be felt millennia later. Like and subscribe for more adventures.